Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. And before we begin, just a quick reminder to those of you who love my stories but still haven't subscribed, today hopefully is the day that I earn your subscription. Now let's get started with today's main story. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Confused Bacon Mouse. Me, 21 female with my ex-boyfriend 20 male of 4 months. Dumped me for having borderline, but I don't have it. My ex-boyfriend broke up with me because of a serious misunderstanding. It's like one of those cliched movies where there's a terrible misunderstanding that could be cleared up if someone just asked, but they won't. And so drama ensues. Basically, I'm a psychology major and I decided to do my senior thesis on early interventions and treatments for young people who show signs of borderline personality disorder but are too young to diagnose accurately. I care about this because my best friend in high school exhibited such symptoms and they ultimately led to her not being with us anymore. Now, my ex-boyfriend didn't know what my senior thesis was about. We didn't discuss academics very much. I don't know much about his very technical major, so it all went over my head, and he doesn't enjoy talking about psychology because he finds it depressing. We have so many other things in common that it doesn't matter. Well, I thought it didn't matter, but I now wish I had brought up the details of my studies much earlier and saved us both a lot of time. My point though is that I'd never told him what my senior thesis was about. Also, for context going forward, my ex-boyfriend is estranged from his mother. He didn't tell me details, he just said she was abusive and it hurt to talk about it. Last Monday, while my boyfriend was in the shower, I was talking to one of my psych major friends on the phone about treatments for borderline. I was saying something like, some people find DBT, dialectual behavior therapy, too judgmental. I've looked at a million DBT workbooks and they didn't seem judgmental to me at first until I talked to a professor who's treated BPD patients. That's when my ex-boyfriend, I guess we'll call him Dave, came out of the bathroom and I started to wind down the conversation with my friend, telling her I had to go, etc. But before I could even say bye to my friend, Dave slipped on his shoes, grabbed his backpack and walked right out of the apartment. I had no idea what was going on. So I said bye really quickly and followed Dave out the door. I called out, "Hey, are you okay?" But he just kept walking and got in his car and left. I didn't know what to do, so I just texted him, "Are you okay? Did something happen?" I figured maybe he'd gotten a text about a family emergency or something and just reacted weirdly. I don't know. A few hours later, I got a long text from Dave. To summarize, he said the following things. I should have told him I have BPD from the start. He should have known I would have it since things had seemed too good to be true. He should have known he'd repeat the patterns of his childhood by falling for a crazy girl like his raging BPD mom. He then went on to say that I'm a manipulative liar who was always hiding my BPD status from him since I knew he'd leave if I told him, and he's glad I slipped up, therefore allowing him to dodge a bullet and avoid the years of abuse that would have come his way at my hands. I should never contact him again, and he saved me the stress or effort of figuring out how to formulate a response because he blocked me. From my point of view, this was pretty shocking at first, but then when I mulled it over for a while, it made more sense. He heard a little of what I was saying on the phone, just enough to know I was talking about treatment for borderline. I had no idea he even knew what DBT is, but clearly he does. But not enough to realize I was talking in an academic context. His mom has BPD, and that means he has experienced abuse at the hands of someone with the disorder. He had a hair trigger in response to the idea that perhaps he would experience such a thing again. He wanted to avoid the miserable experience of confronting or breaking up with an unstable person face to face and leaving. I can understand how all that made sense to him, and I can't even say I hold it against him. I mean, on an emotional level, I was pretty angry he didn't give me a chance to explain, and I'm very sad because I was starting to fall in love with him and I miss him terribly, but it is what it is. I cried a little bit, then ate some ice cream, all that good stuff you're supposed to do when someone dumps you. But otherwise, I figured I'd just leave him alone. That's what he wants, and there's no potential way that trying to hunt him down and clear things up would just make him even more sure of what he now thinks. Besides, I'm not sure I'd actually still be interested, even if he changes his mind. I understand why he had the reaction he did, but it's not something I'd want to go through again. Most of my friends are saying I should write him one last letter or seek him out to explain, though. Their rationale is basically that he was very happy with me and they knew he wouldn't want to lose me based on a mistake. They feel that normally it's best to respect someone who goes no contact, but that he went no contact based on a misunderstanding and he'd regret doing so if I cleared it up. They also found out through a mutual friend that he is telling people he dumped me because I have BPD, and this concerns my friends because they are worried it will affect my reputation. Additionally, and apparently, he's now telling people that my not reaching out is a sign that I'm splitting and giving the silent treatment. What do you think? What should I do? I really don't think it's a good idea to try to communicate with him, so I'm not going to seek him out, whether in person or through a letter. But what should I do about him telling people I have BPD? And what should I do if I see him in public? Walk away, say hi, say I don't have BPD, and assuming makes an ass of you and me? Lol, I'm not sure that would be really convincing. Well, OP, it's a tough situation. Like you say, it's one of those ridiculous mistakes like in a rom-com or something. But regardless, I wouldn't reach out to him or I wouldn't seek him out because, yeah, then you'd look like the crazy stalker because you just want to clear up a point. That's more cliched movie material. I absolutely understand if he suffered abuse from someone with this disorder, then he definitely want to avoid it at all costs. But the way he did it was a bit dramatic, I'd say. Regardless, I would have been okay with no contact and just, we move on with our lives. That was it. It was 4 months, no more. Until he started telling people. That's not cool. I think your ex needs some professional help to get over his trauma, but what he's doing to you now, it's unwarranted. So here's what I would do if I was in your shoes. He doesn't want you to contact him anymore. That's absolutely fine, but you need to tell him to stop spreading rumors about you that are not true. And if he doesn't want to hear it from you, maybe he'll hear it from some school authority that's gonna just sit him down and tell him, look man, you got it wrong, you shouldn't do this or there's gonna be trouble. That will probably give him the full context and he might actually come back to try to talk to you, at which point you need to decide what you want to do. But first, you need to stop him talking about you. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? How would you try to solve this quagmire? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Totot says, I was raised by a BPD mother, and that's precisely what she would do. Always suspect malintent, jump at the smallest bit of information, make a bunch of unfounded assumptions, and lash out. The fact he is actually telling people you are giving him the silent treatment, what the F, says to me that he's actually looking for drama instead of trying to avoid it. You sound way too balanced for this crap. Deleted says, quote, my ex jumped to conclusions over a conversation he overheard between me and a friend talking about my research. Instead of asking me about it like an adult, he blew up and blocked me. He really has some unresolved issues that I'm glad I don't have to deal with. End quote. And then seriously be glad that you learned that this is how he reacts and communicates. I would ignore him in public. I'm sure his mother in childhood played a role in his reaction, but that doesn't make it more acceptable. Gisalis says, bullet dodged. He doesn't care enough to at least feign interest in what you're studying. And from the sound of it, has a massive amount of baggage. You need a partner, not a fix-up project. Him leaving without a single word no less was a gift in my opinion. And Punch Me Thrilo says, even though he seriously misunderstood you and has a past with family with the disorder, his reaction to you potentially having a mental illness without exhibiting any toxic behavior is concerning to say the least. Like, what the F? Additional information from OP's comments. I'm not sure I could feel comfortable again, or at least not soon, after all this. I'd probably be worried he'd keep looking for signs I'm secretly like his mom. We were happy with each other before though. As to letting him know it was a misunderstanding, I don't know how I could do that without distressing him further. I mean, I'm worried that if I simply showed up where he was, he'd take it as me being a stalker, ignoring his request for no contact, and that he'd think I was just lying when I said I don't have it. As to threatening legal action, I think it's really difficult to win a slander case. None of my actual friends believe him, but there are a few things I didn't mention in my original post since they weren't really relevant to my question. One of them is that one person in my friend circle was disturbed by how he's perpetuating the stigma, so she decided to tell us she herself has BPD. Apparently, she'd already told her boyfriend ages ago. Since she is kind to others and doesn't behave abusively, none of us have judged her. We know her, and she's still the same person we knew and loved last week. Now, there may be a lot of people who, for various reasons, wouldn't want to date somebody with BPD, even if the BPD person never behaves abusively. That's fine. But there's also a large group of people who will think, that diagnosis is concerning, but I'm going to make decisions based on the person's behavior, not the diagnosis. Alright, well, the community seems to agree that OP dodged a bullet with how this guy just broke up with her and went no contact, and what that first commenter said about how this is how his mom would behave, that did put things into perspective for me. And also OP agrees that if she just shows up, that's just more feed for this whole drama. Anyways, of course there is an update to this story and we're moving on with that right now, but before that, if you're enjoying this video and story so far, go ahead and click that like button and don't forget to subscribe if you still haven't done it. Now let's move on with the update. Well, here's my cliched intro. I read every single comment in response to my last thread. Yeah, all of them, including the ones recommending I post on Facebook about it. I am sure there is some social Einstein out there who could do that while coming off well, but I'm not that social Einstein, so I didn't try it. I stopped replying somewhat early because I was tired. Before I explain what happened next, I need to be clear. I didn't want to be with him anymore for more than one reason. I could never trust him again. Maybe that sounds too sensitive, but when he walked out on me like that, it showed me a future I didn't want. One with a man whose pains are so great and so deep that he won't hesitate to harm me in his attempt to save himself. I also couldn't be okay with how he was talking about some imaginary person who happened to have my name with borderline personality disorder. I don't have it, but what if I did? What then? Then it would be okay to try and make everyone hate me even though I never did anything to him? I don't think so. I want to treat people with BPD, not to hate them. I can't be with someone who hates them all because he automatically sees his mother's face in the diagnosis. So, what happened next? I decided to take the advice of 1. Having my friends explain the truth whenever it was brought up, including them talking about my thesis and referring people to my advisor if they didn't believe I was writing my thesis on this subject. And 2. Actually talking to my advisor about it. I thought really carefully about contacting him directly to set him straight, but I couldn't get over feeling hesitant to do it after he asked me not to. So I just figured, he'd hear the truth from my friends, and if he wanted to seek me out, he would. And that's what happened. He showed up banging at my door. This was kind of shocking because he seemed so calm throughout our relationship, but he was knocking on my door like some police officer or something. It was late and I was in my pajamas and totally disoriented. Thankfully, my roommate wears earplugs. I let him in and he was just so horrified by what he'd done. I don't think he actually understood the extent of the wrongness of how he'd behaved, but he did understand one thing. He realized he'd guessed wrong about why I was discussing BPD on the phone, and he was so sick over it that he said he'd been throwing up. He said he was so sorry and so worthless, and he'd never do it again. He said he despised himself for destroying something wonderful. He told me the things his mother had actually done, the actual specifics. It was horrific. The best I could do was hold him and stroke his hair until he was even breathing at a normal rate and not crying. I didn't want to take him back as a partner. I wanted to help, but really, I can't. I can't do that. I just told him he's so lovable and he deserves better than what happened and he won't be able to have better until he gets help. I said he needed help from a therapist. I said he's a big a-hole if he rejects psychology while he needs help from psychologists so badly. This might sound harsh, but it fits the sense of humor we shared when we were together. I also said it's not fair that his mother gave him the needs he has, but that they now belong to him. Eventually, I managed to get him out of the apartment. I drove him home in his car and then got an Uber to get me back to mine. I have not heard or sought out any information about him since then, but I guess that means he's not talking about me. I hope he's getting help. Thanks again to everyone who gave me advice. Wow, OP, it sounds like you are ready to be a full-on therapist and get out there to help some people. You handle this thing so well. Like that one commenter said, you sound really balanced, and the way that you diffused the situation, you calmed him down, you told him what you needed to tell him, and then you got him out of your apartment without any drama. Tip of the hat to you, OP. So thank you so much for sharing, and here's wishing you the best in the future. Take care, OP. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user 190 pairs of panties. Tale as old as time. Don't touch my things and I won't touch yours. So after college, I ended up living with two friends from school in a family-owned house near the school. One of them brought in one of her co-workers, Ashley, to stay for 3 months while she finished out a contract. There was a lease agreement for the main two friends. They knew my cousin and knew he was the landlord. And everything had been fine for over a year before Ashley came along. Ashley signed an agreement with him as well for the 3 months. We did agree not to share the family connection with Ashley, though, in case she was a problem and tried to use it against us or as an excuse to be a slob and not pay. Ashley seemed okay for the first couple of days, mostly settling in and getting used to the house and how it ran. I had offered to make a roast dinner for everyone and was in the process of cooking when Ashley noticed me use her bottle of Palmolive on accident and asked me why I used hers instead of my own. It was sitting right next to mine and a little bit more empty. Weird, but I apologized for the mistake, took a rubber band from the junk drawer and put it on the neck of my bottle so it wouldn't happen again and assumed that that was that. That was not that. Ashley then informed the roommates that she'd seen me using her salt and pepper on the table on a couple of occasions. The cardboard dollar store sets for picnics, and asked them if I always took all their stuff without asking and if I was always this way. They said no, and Ashley said they were clearly just too spineless to speak up for themselves. She turned to me and said, I won't put up with this sort of nonsense. I don't want anyone else using anything of mine just because it's sitting out. I will not be having this conversation again. Do not touch anything of mine or else. I can feel my pulse in my teeth and say, I understand completely, Ashley. I'm really sorry if you feel that way, but I think your way is the best way forward. No more using one another's things at all, right? And she says, right. Right. Well, the kettle, coffee makers, toaster, and microwave are all mine. Ditto for all the pots and pans, flatware and plates in these cupboards and drawers. The big TV in the main room and the consoles are mine as well. All the bedding on your bed is also mine. I'll thank you for putting it in the wash immediately. I think she thought I was joking. I was not. I was going to tell her, no roast beef or Yorkshire pudding for you. But she opted not to join us for the welcome dinner on her own. The next morning, as soon as she was gone to work, I rearranged my things in the kitchen, put everything of mine into the walk-in pantry and put a locking knob on it. I took the remotes and controllers for my big TV and kept them locked in my room. I took the bedding and lamps of mine out of her room. Extra receiver for satellite? Nope. Just the 3 we already have and it's my account anyhow. Wi-Fi password? Sorry, that's mine as well. Ashley complained bitterly. She insisted it was illegal for me to deprive her of the microwave, internet, and TV in her lease. Nope, That thing just said that a fridge, stove, dishwasher, washer, and dryer were available for use. Oh, and by the way, the laundry drying rack is mine as well, and stop using my detergent pellets. It was a rough 2 months. Ashley ended up leaving early to move in with a boyfriend. She made a big theatrical threat on her way out that she was talking to the landlord and was going to get all of us kicked out. It was then that I informed her he was family. She looked like a balloon full of raspberry jam at that revelation, and we never saw her again. The roommates were fine with the kitchen and TV stuff. They had keys to the pantry and their own TVs in their rooms. Well, OP, that's the environment Ashley wanted between roommates. You don't touch my stuff, I don't touch yours. And that's exactly what she got. Good for you, OP, and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.